He has nothing to keep him alive except one incredible piece of technology known as his spacesuit.
For decades, NASA has been sending people out into the most inhospitable and unsurvivable environment ever encountered.
That hostile environment is the absolute vacuum of outer space, where human survival is completely impossible naturally. Survival in this realm is only possible thanks to multiple layers of protection that build a spacecraft around the body. Once you see how this intricate system works together, and you will never look at a spacewalk the same way again. Before we can build our spacesuit, and we need to understand the extreme dangers that our astronaut must be protected against, we must examine what exposure to outer space can actually do to an unprotected human being over a short period. The terrifying thing about leaving the Earth is that we also leave behind all of the essential necessities of life.
One of these vital necessities is air, which we constantly need in order to breathe properly every single second.
At home on Earth, the majority of our ambient air is made of two key ingredients called nitrogen and oxygen. Out of these two primary ingredients, oxygen is by far the most important one for keeping human cells alive.
Without a steady supply of oxygen, a human being will rapidly suffocate and lose consciousness within a few moments. While needing air is fairly obvious, and something you might not think about quite as much is atmospheric pressure. The ambient air that surrounds our bodies on a daily basis needs to be properly pressurized to function correctly. At roughly sea level, meaning not on a tall mountain, the Earth has 14.7 psi of air pressure. If you travel up to the top of Mount Everest, that pressure drops significantly to around 5 psi total. We know that people who climb up that high almost always need to bring extra bottles of oxygen to breathe. Without those extra oxygen bottles, climbers get sick and delirious on the freezing slopes of the giant mountain. The peak of Mount Everest is located about 9 kilometers above the normal sea level of our planet.
Our friend Bruce from earlier in his specialized spacesuit was floating about 275 kilometers above the Earth's surface.
Up at that extreme altitude, the air pressure drops down to zero, or about as close to zero as possible. The severe effects of this zero-pressure environment on the human body go way beyond just feeling lightheaded.
Let's take a close look at what would actually happen to a person floating outside without a spacesuit.
In the harsh vacuum of space, all internal and external liquids will instantly begin to boil away into nothing. This happens not because they get hot, but because there is nothing holding the molecules together tightly. As a result, the liquid molecules vaporize rapidly and expand outward into a gas in the open space. Human beings are mostly made of liquid, so with zero pressure holding you together, your body would change. The human body would rapidly expand to about double its normal size in a rather gross and terrifying manner. This horrifying situation is made even worse by the extreme and unpredictable temperature problem present in orbit. Most people mistakenly think that out in space you would instantly freeze solid, but that is not always true. On Earth, the warmth of the sun is filtered through several kilometers of protective atmosphere that spread heat out.
Think about the noticeable difference you feel between direct sunlight and when the sun passes behind a cloud.
That is a great everyday example of natural atmospheric insulation, working to keep temperatures relatively stable around us. It also works in the exact opposite way during the dark night hours across our planet. Even though the sun might be completely gone, residual heat is trapped by the atmosphere on the surface. If you take away the atmosphere and experience direct sunlight in space, the heat rises dramatically. For an unfortunate suitless astronaut in direct sunlight, the temperature will rise to as much as 120 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, over on the dark shadow side, where there is no sunlight at all, temperatures plummet rapidly. On that freezing shadow side, the ambient temperature will drop well below -100 degrees Celsius. This leaves an unprotected person half cooked on one side and half frozen on the other, which is all bad. Just to add a deadly finishing touch, unfiltered sunlight from space is also highly radioactive to living tissues. Not that radiation matters much at this point after all of the other terrible things that happen to you.
As humanity enters a new space age, there is another digital frontier most people do not think about enough.
That hidden digital frontier is personal online privacy and the widespread tracking of our daily internet activities. Every day, shady data brokers collect and sell huge amounts of sensitive personal information to third-party corporate buyers.
Things like your home address, personal phone number, relatives, and previous places you lived end up online. All of this sensitive personal history can end up stored inside searchable public databases for anyone to view. That is one of the primary reasons why I have been personally using Delete Me for the past 2 years. Delete Me is a reliable hands-free subscription service that helps remove your personal information from data broker websites. Their dedicated privacy experts find where your private information appears online across hundreds of people search databases. They submit formal removal requests on your behalf and handle the tedious administrative process from start to finish. They continue actively monitoring those sketchy sites throughout the year, so your data does not quietly reappear later. I have actually been using Delete Me for over 2 years now, and it gives me incredible peace of mind. It feels great knowing someone is actively working to pull my private information out of these vulnerable databases.
In that time, Delete Me has successfully reviewed over 40 data brokers and removed 6 listings containing my data.
They have also been doing this crucial work for more than 15 years, with an exceptional track record. Delete Me was recently named Wirecutter's #1 recommended data removal service for consumers looking to protect privacy. If you want to reduce how much of your personal information floats online, visit joindeleteme.com/spacerace today.
Use the special promo code SPACERACE to get 20% off all available Delete Me consumer privacy plans.
Thanks again to Delete Me for sponsoring today's video and helping keep our digital lives safe and secure.
So, we know that outer space is completely horrifying and lethal to unprotected human bodies under normal conditions. The big question now is how engineers and scientists manage to keep astronauts safe from it. This is a critical question that NASA began figuring out the answer to back in the early 1960s. This historical figure was the very first American guy that NASA launched into space, named John Glenn.
This specific garment was his early prototype spacesuit, designed for short orbital flights inside a capsule. It was meticulously made to address our first 2 big concerns, of breathing air and maintaining internal pressure.
As long as John's mission went according to plan, he would never actually be out in space alone. The interior of his spacecraft capsule featured a fully functional and reliable life support system, supplying breathable air. Therefore, he did not technically need to wear the suit for survival, but he wore it anyway. Every single NASA astronaut who followed after him continued this mandatory tradition of wearing specialized flight suits. This is the exact point where we can start to divide spacesuits into 2 distinct functional categories.
There are standard flight suits meant to be worn safely inside the pressurized cabin of a spacecraft.
Then there are extravehicular activity suits, which are specifically designed to be worn outside the vehicle in space. Flight suits are essentially the absolute last line of defense against a very bad day during flight.
The Soviet Union learned this painful lesson the hard way back in the year 1971.
A returning crew capsule experienced a catastrophic failure in its life support system during descent from orbit.
The spacecraft rapidly lost all air pressure, while the 3 diverse adult female members inside, one South Asian.
Tragically, those 3 men passed away from asphyxiation before their capsule ever reached the ground safely. So, if it wasn't already entirely apparent by now, aerospace safety gear is extremely serious stuff. In some unique historical cases, a single spacesuit design had to serve a dual operational purpose.
For example, during NASA's Gemini missions of the mid-1960s, American astronauts began leaving their tiny capsules.
Those old spacecraft capsules were so cramped and small that astronauts were simply not able to change outfits.
Consequently, the primary flight suit had to also function as an extravehicular suit during spacewalk operations.
They successfully accomplished this by using a physical umbilical cord to connect the capsule life support system. Because the crew was now leaving the protective walls, the suit required extra layers of thermal insulation. Once they got outside, astronauts weren't able to do very much other than float around the vehicle. They completed a few simple manual tasks to demonstrate basic tool use capabilities in outer space environments. That limited capability existed because the astronaut was essentially trapped inside a rigid human-shaped rubber balloon. The early suit was unfortunately not designed for smooth physical mobility, at least not yet in development. Over the next decade, NASA took everything they learned from Gemini spacewalks to design a new suit.
They used that vital field data to create their famous extravehicular mobility unit, universally known as the EMU.
These advanced suits were first worn on the dusty lunar surface by Apollo moon landing astronauts.
To meet the needs of demanding lunar excursions, NASA upgraded the suit with a portable life support system. This backpack unit replicated the comfortable atmospheric environment inside the spacecraft, out on the barren lunar surface. Engineers then added mechanical joints inside the arms for extra mobility during difficult geological sample collection tasks. Even with these upgrades, the guys still looked pretty clumsy walking around in low gravity up there. The valuable experience gained across 5 moon landings allowed NASA to further refine the suit design. They created a specialized configuration to be used exclusively for operating in the vacuum of space. This is the iconic image that just about everyone pictures when they imagine a classic white spacesuit.
That familiarity exists largely because since its introduction in 1983, NASA has kept the EMU design.
It has been thoroughly tried and tested on nearly 300 spacewalks by 4 decades of brave astronauts. These units have flown successfully on board both the Space Shuttle and the International Space Station consistently. Now, let's walk through the detailed process of trying on one of these complex engineering marvels ourselves. Our absolute first layer of bodily protection is officially known as the maximum absorbency garment piece. That is simply a fancy industry name for a heavy-duty adult diaper used during long spacewalk operations. There are obviously no functioning bathroom break facilities available while floating outside on a routine spacewalk. Next, we carefully put on a skin-tight full-body outfit called the liquid cooling and ventilation garment. Sewn intricately into this fabric is about 100 meters of thin plastic tubing circulating water around you. The thick insulation of the outer suit traps body heat, so flowing water keeps astronauts cool. Okay, this is the exciting phase where we finally get into the big structural hardware components. The hard upper torso, commonly called the HUT, comes down over your arms and head. It is a rigid fiberglass shell that works like a central hub for other major components to attach. Inside the UT, directly over the chest area, is where we install the disposable in-suit drink bag.
It is a convenient water bag featuring a flexible drinking straw that leads right up to your mouth.
On the outside front of the HUT, there are attachment points to connect the mini workstation. That mini workstation functions somewhat like a utility tool belt to hold specialized maintenance gear securely. Above the workstation goes the display and control module, featuring physical knobs and switches for adjustments. These controls allow astronauts to fine-tune the internal environment and mechanical functions of the suit easily. Now, you won't be able to see your own chest directly from inside the bulky helmet enclosure. Therefore, a small angled mirror is attached to your wrist to view the control panel clearly. Furthermore, all the labels on the control module are written backwards, so they read normally in reflections.
Heavy-duty arm assemblies attach securely to the left and right sides of the rigid fiberglass UT structure.
There is an upper arm piece and a lower arm piece designed to accommodate various body heights. On each individual arm piece, there is an adjustable strap to fine-tune length for specific astronaut arms.
Physical mobility is carefully handled by precision bearing joints located at both the shoulder and elbow positions.
These allow for smooth rotational movement thanks to a ring of tiny metal balls rolling inside tracks. This clever mechanical design is how astronauts achieve full range of movement while maintaining airtight seals.
Moving with the rotation of these specialized joints is very different from normal biological human muscle operation.
Astronauts must go through rigorous special conditioning to train their arms to work with the suit.
This training ensures they do not lose valuable physical energy fighting against the stiffness of the garment.
Next, we attach the space pants, technically known in engineering terms as the lower torso assembly unit. This heavy component covers everything from the user's waist down to the permanently integrated heavy-duty boots. The lower assembly attaches to the hut using a large locking metal ring called the body closure. There are two more sets of smaller mechanical joints, positioned right above the knees and ankles.
These joints allow you to bend your legs, but they do not rotate like the upper arm bearings.
You are only able to twist your body slightly from side to side at the waist attachment ring. Okay, now, let's add the complex outer layer protective shell of the advanced extravehicular spacesuit system.
This multi-layered outer shell is what truly separates your fragile body from the deadly vacuum outside.
The outer shell is built in several distinct layers, each one serving a very specific protective purpose. Starting with the innermost material layer, this is a specialized rubberized nylon component called pressure bladder. It essentially works like an internal balloon to hold vital air pressure and stop blood from boiling. Although these EMU suits are not fully pressurized to normal Earth sea level atmospheric conditions outdoors, full pressurization would make them far too rigid and physically impossible for human astronauts to maneuver. Therefore, engineers keep internal pressure right around the bare minimum safe threshold of 4.3 psi. That internal pressure level is even less than what our climber experiences at the top of Everest.
That low pressure makes doing a spacewalk an incredibly physically demanding task, requiring extensive physical strength.
It also requires some extra work on the life support side to keep our hard-working astronauts breathing properly.
On top of the pressure bladder is a woven polyester fabric material, known commonly in industry as Dacron.
We typically use this tough material to make linings of cushions because it resists abrasion.